Welcome, everyone. As you all know or may not know, my name is Mia Cash. I'm Overpass's Talent Advocate Manager. Really excited to conclude our three-part series on objection handling. We're going to be talking about objection handling presentations today with Overpass Sales Manager Dennis Hamilton and one of our lovely account executives, Jan. So, Dennis, I will let you kick it off from here and we can go ahead and get started.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and share my screen on today's presentation. If you weren't here for the previous sessions, our first session was kind of defining what's a question, what's a negative statement, and what's a true objection as far as the customer goes. So we've already handled the first two, and we'll make sure that we get these posted so you can go back and reference the first two if you didn't see them. So this is the third of the three-part series. And this presentation is designed, it's not that I invented it, it's called the Socratic method of selling, which means it's only been around since Socrates. So it's been around a day or two. This is nothing new. But what it is, some people call it a logic trap, but it's basically designed to unpack an objection with a client to overcome that objection, leading to a trial close and a close. So that's the intent. So let me go ahead and get my presentation up. Sorry, I've got a new set of tools this week, a new monitor. So it's taking me a hot second to get adjusted to it. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So let's get right into this. When we talk about anatomy of an objection presentation, there are several different pieces to this, right? But why is it, first of all, why is it so important? Handling objections literally differentiates us between peddlers and sales professionals. In other words, anybody can make a bunch of calls, get on a phone, go through a pre-selected script, ask for the close, get a yes or no, and move on to the next call. The huge differentiator is who can actually do all of those things extremely well, but not only that, handle objections if those do come up within the sales presentation. So if the need or value of your product or service hasn't been established, you have to help the prospect understand the actual need. Makes sense, right? So in your script, if your script was not convincing enough to where they see the need for your product or service, it needs further unpacking. That's what these presentations are designed to do. And then, as we've said in every episode in this series, handling objections during the presentation will exponentially increase your closing rate and therefore your income. We're all going to invest X amount of hours a day for a return or payment on our investment. If you're not doubling your paycheck as far as commissions of what your base rate is, you need to address, can you handle objections? Are you being effective at your job? Because from a client's perspective, if all you're doing is going through the motions or going through the numbers, they're not going to have you on that contract long term. They're going to find somebody that can move the dial for them and get sales through the door, because that's what pays for your position. So let's talk about the anatomy, the different pieces of an objection handling presentation. The conclusion, which is simply, what is the sales idea I'm going to unpack? An opening question. How am I going to transition my conversation in order to lead in to the need awareness? Need awareness. This is asking a series of questions, getting your prospect's response in order to start building the actual need for the product or service you offer. Need satisfaction. This is explaining to them exactly how your product fits the need that you've just unpacked. And then trial close, then close. A trial close is simply to verify that the customer or prospect understands what you just unpacked with them, that they got the concept of your sales idea. Because if they didn't, why would you close at this point? You would go back and maybe do a second objection handling presentation to move them further down the dial to where they have established a need before you close. So let's go through one of these things one at a time. The one thing you have to remember as you build these is, what point am I trying to make? Usually if you can remember the conclusion of where you're trying to go, the rest of it, after you've got some practice at this, will just unpack itself. So writing out your conclusion is defining the need of what you want to help the customer understand. So here's an example using an actual conversations that we have daily at Overpass. So an example, using Overpass to build your sales team not only gives you speed to market, but also ensures a partnership where you can scale a complete sales solution to deliver results while being extremely cost effective, right? That's the point we're trying to make to the client. We haven't even entered into this presentation. That enters in the next step, our opening question. So your opening question in this particular instance, if we were talking to an Overpass prospect, somebody that hasn't hired yet, that's just come onto the platform, is, hey, if you didn't use Overpass, how would you set up your sales team today? Now, the customer's going to unpack what their plan B was, right? They could have been, I'm going to go to a third-party call center, or I'm just going to hire direct. Let's say for the sake of this example is they're just going to go through their conventional hiring process. So that would lead us to this series of questions. Where would you advertise for that sales talent if it wasn't with us? Well, I just go to Facebook, or I just go to Indeed or LinkedIn or whatever, post a job, right? How long would that process take? One of the superpowers of Overpass is our speed to market. We can board people in 3 to 5 business days, where most people, their conventional hiring rotation takes about 1 month. So we're literally talking about less than a week compared to 1 month, a huge difference. What's the average market rate for those positions? In other words, what are you paying for those positions, right? What guarantees do you get when you're hiring conventionally? Is there any guarantee that that person would work out? Would you have payroll burden on those hires? How much would that be? In other words, do you have payroll taxes, et cetera, if you're hiring them as employees? What would you do about systems, telephones, desk, technology, all the assets you need to launch a sales team? Are you going to put those in-house? Or are you going to put out that expense up front? Would you just start that entire process over as you scale? In other words, now I need more representatives. You just start from scratch through this whole process. So these are the questions that we would ask the client. Need satisfaction. This is actually satisfying against that need that you just unpacked. So they just described their conventional hiring process, right? So as an example, we were talking to an Overpass prospect again. So let's take a look at what you get when you're using us. You get a cost-free job posting that sources pre-vetted talent that's ready to go to work, right? Number one, you get 3 to 5 days boarding time instead of that month that you just mentioned. You have 0 payroll burden, which literally would be 2 to 3 times what our fee base would be, just if you had payroll burden versus using us. You've got a constant source for additional talent, whether that be to replace a seat or to scale because you need more people. Ready available systems or the ability to use your own systems. Just so you know, at Overpass, we're okay. They can use, if they're using HubSpot, that's fine. If they're using a dialer, that's fine. We have our system available. If they want to use our system, it's there for them to use as well. And then rapid scaling in just a couple of days, right? So after I unpack that value proposition, would now be the time to trial close. So a trial close is always the restatement of the original conclusion that we built in this sales presentation. So in this case, can you see how using Overpass to build your sales team not only gives you speed to market, but also ensures a partnership where you can scale a complete sales team and a complete sales solution to deliver results while you're still being extremely cost effective versus your conventional practices, right? If you build one of these presentations well, the only answer out of the customer, it should be one of those, are you just kind of slow or did you not understand? Because I can re-explain myself again. It should literally be fairly obvious to the client that yes, this is the right solution if you built your presentation correctly, right? So if we have positive response here, we would go directly to the close. Great, let's set up a time for an interview block and get your job posted, right? Go ahead and share your screen with me. Let me go ahead and help you out with that. So this is the nature of a pure objection handling presentation. You can build these on your own. This is not something that I can template because the objections would be different based on the client you're working for, based on the product or service that they are selling, right? Based on your own personality profile of how you would write those questions out. In other words, it needs to sound like you. It doesn't need to sound like a sales script. So if you build out your conclusion, what point do I want to get to? Then it's very easy to go, okay, I've got an opening question to transition. based on that conclusion. Now I need a list of questions to further unpack what would be the alternative if they don't use my product, right? Or why people that have used my product or service find it to be valuable. Okay, it could be that as well. Building your need satisfaction, which is usually a redisclosure of your value proposition, but in more detail than your core sales script would be. And then obviously trial close. Trial close will always start with, can you see, right? Can you see how this would work for you? Can you see how this is very different than what you're looking at doing if you don't use us? Okay. Okay. So Mr. Jan and I, what we're going to do is walk through a typical conversation that we have every single day at Overpass. This is literally what we do each and every day. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through, you know what? As a matter of fact, we actually do have time. So I'm going to go through a full presentation, just like we did last week, as if we were talking to an actual Overpass customer. Okay. So for sake of example, let's pick out another very typical client that we talk to. So let's say we have a SaaS platform, software as a service. So this is somebody that's trying to sell software and get it into the market. It could be for a ton of different reasons, but let's just say this is a SaaS-based customer. So Jan and I will go ahead and get going. I'll be the Overpass account executive in this example, and Jan will be the potential client. So here we go. Ring, ring.
Hey, this is Jan. How can I help you?
Hey, Jan, this is Dennis from Overpass. I saw that you had registered on our platform, and I just wanted to touch base with you real quickly and kind of go over exactly how we work and what we do and understand your need as far as what you're looking for within this short conversation. Do you have time for that right now?
I'm not sure. Remind me, I get an awful lot of requests every day. I don't seem to really recall Overpass.
Sure. You had registered with us, so it's something that you registered for. And we're the people that help you build remote sales teams, whether that be business development reps, sales development reps, account executives, or customer service reps.
Okay, I remember that now. Yep. All right, how can I help you today? I'm kind of busy, but how can I help you?
No worries. So let me ask you this. Could you define, I see you're a SaaS company, you're distributing SaaS software inside the digital marketing space. Can you explain to me a little bit about exactly what your company does so I have a better understanding of that?
Yeah, sure. We've been, part of the, the cloud for a long time. We're experts in showing our clients how they can brand themselves and get across to their potential customers the value proposition that we offer, or that they offer, excuse me.
Awesome. Awesome. Very cool. So let me ask you this. What got you to Overpass? What was your incentive when you registered on the platform? What was your motivation? What was your pain point that you were trying to address?
Sure. We're a growing company, and we're always looking to expand the opportunities for us to move our product to a broader audience. And normally I would use either, LinkedIn or Upworks or a ZipRecruiter. I've been looking at those. We've used them, sometimes effective, sometimes not. We've done some internal hiring. So I'm just looking for alternatives, and maybe better to get my goals accomplished.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the current sales state of your team today. What does your sales team look like that you have in place as we speak?
Sure. We've got 4 salespeople now and 2, assistants helping them to set appointments, and I do the sales management of the team.
Okay. Okay. So you're managing all 4 of those account executives?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So you have 2 basically business development representatives setting appointments and 4 account executives. Is that correct?
That's accurate. Yep.
Okay. So how many years you been in business? How long did it take to get to this point?
We're in our 5th year, so we're starting to develop a pretty good reputation, a lot of references, and now what we need is more opportunities.
Okay. So way past the startup phase. Congratulations. It's always
Yeah,
hard
for sure.
those first 18 months.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's been fun getting there.
so when you started, how did you start? Did you like raise funding to build your platform, or did you just bootstrap it, or what did that kind of look like?
Yeah, a couple of us got together and realized that there was a hole in the market that we could fill. We
Mhm.
both put in, we all three of us, my two partners and I, put in some of our personal funds and kind of built it from the ground up.
Okay, cool. So if you look at your sales team today of those 4 account executives and 2 business development reps, you have that today and you signed up with Overpass. So there is a pain point there that you were trying to fill. What exactly do you need as far as human collateral or human horsepower right now in order to scale out your sales team? What does that look like?
I think it's a combination of two things, Dennis. One, I'm not, really overly excited about the results that we're getting from our present team. They're just not generating the number of sales that we would like. So, part of this is I was thinking about doing kind of an A/B comparison between the results of what we're getting,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at Overpass and a couple of other sites that I found to uh, uh, see if there's a better mousetrap that we can build, so to speak.
Perfect. We've definitely got one of those. Let me ask you this. Do you think your ratio of business development reps versus account executives is a good ratio today, 2 against 4?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That part of it's not that part of it's not the issue.
Okay.
The end result of what we're getting is what I'm concerned about. But I think the ratio is correct. 2 feeding
So,
4, I think
so what
is
we're looking for, as I understand it, Gene, is kind of some A/B testing against some new account executive talent versus the talent that you have currently today.
correct. Yep, that's accurate. Yep.
Great. So if you had 4 AEs today, probably putting in it to get a good comparison, at least 2 more account executives would give you an accurate A/B test. Would that be a correct statement, or were you looking for more?
I would say 2 AEs, and to make the comparison, I would want one appointment setter, because I don't think if I
One
bring on
BDR.
2 AEs, I'm not going to have enough opportunities for them. So I would need probably a 3-person team to get going.
That makes total sense to me based on everything that you just said. So let me ask you this. What type of pay range have you conventionally paid with the account executives? What are you paying those guys today? And are they,
Yeah, they're not cheap. I mean, they're basically on a $50,000 base with a bonus bump on sales.
okay,
Averages around 5% of net.
about 5% of sale? Makes total sense. Okay. And then how are you, so on 50,000 a year, so you're basically paying them around 25 to $30 an hour base, plus you're paying them a commission, and then plus obviously since they're employees, you've got payroll burden, et cetera, on top of that, employee tax and all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah. I've tried to hire for less and gotten nothing. So we felt that was a reasonable place to be able to attract the right talent and to incent them to do more. But it's kind of working out. But for that money, I would like to get better results. Quite candidly.
Totally, makes total sense. Makes total sense. So we're kind of looking at 2 AEs, 1 BDR, and we're looking at, I kind of understand what you're paying today. So let's talk about this. There's 3 things that we do at Overpass. We have people, we have technology, and we do payment facilitation. So the first thing that we do is people. So we've got several thousand pre-vetted contractors on the platform. They all have previous sales and marketing experience, and they all work remotely. Our superpower is time to market. We can literally get these people boarded for you on the first round in 3 to 5 business days, subsequent hiring rounds in just a couple of days, max. We can have new talent to you that you can be training and literally putting to work. So that's a really cool component of what we do. We have contractors from 90 different countries. Do you have a preference as far as if international talent, US talent, or is it more in tune to just who can get the job done?
It's really who can get the job done. Our customers are all U.S. based, and we get all of us like to think internationally, but we're concerned about some of the accents from some of the folks in different parts of the world too difficult to explain. So I'm less concerned about where they are, but rather how they sound and what their intellect and understanding is.
Awesome. So we can put a mix of profiles in there, because what we find a lot of times is we can get you a very good buy internationally with some people that have great accents, and understand that all of our people work with U.S. and Canadian companies. So we only place into a domestic markets, right? We don't do international. So that being said, so we have the people. As far as tech, what do you have, like your own CRM system? I imagine you have some sort of system in place with these 6 people that you have currently, right?
Yeah, we do. I think we're pretty well set with technology. It's not the best. It's we're use combinations of Excel and Word and keeping track of things. You mentioned you've got some powerful technology. I'd like to know about it, at least be able to make a decision by seeing it or knowing more about it.
Awesome. So we can take a look at that today too.
Yeah, okay.
So that, which leads me right into my next point. If you want a rapid boarding with us, another thing that you might leverage is our technology. Now, it's not HubSpot. It's not a full-blown CRM, but what it is a very effective dialer tracking tool and customer history tool that you can use. You could have all your people working off of the exact same platform. There's different access levels. So like you could be the administrator, Jan, and then you could have the 4 AEs in a supervisory role, and then just have like your BDRs as an agent role, and that would all give them different access to the system.
Even people that I don't bring on from Overpass, my existing people can use your system?
Yes, sir. That's the best part. I'm going to get to that in just a minute.
And what is that? What would that cost me?
Yeah, that's great. Let's get to that. And then I'll get right to it. Let me go through that third thing that we do, which is payment facilitation. So if it's Overpass contractors, we're going to make sure that all those people get paid every week. So what's going to happen is you're going to get an invoice every Monday for their previous week's work, and it'll have all the hours that they clocked in. They use our system as a time clock. You have the control of adjusting any of those hours, adding commissions, of course, if it was the end of the month. You approve that invoice by Tuesday close of business, and then we make sure everybody gets paid Thursday for their previous week's work. So we take all of the payroll heavy lifting right off of your plate for the Overpass contractors. Obviously, if they're your own people, you've already got your payment method of how you're paying. So you would just keep using that. But with Overpass contractors, that becomes really easy. But back to your question, which is super important, we have 3 different levels of engaging with us. So the first level would be if you wanted tech, talent, and payment facilitation. So on those 3, if you want all 3, including a dedicated number and unlimited dialing in the US and Canada, on an Overpass rep, that would be $240 per month per seat. So if you had 40-hour-a-week employees, that breaks down to about $1.50 an hour. The second option we have is if you want talent only. So on talent only, we'll keep you staffed with talent, and we'll also do your payment facilitation for you. And at that level, it breaks down to $160 a month, or about $1 an hour on a 40-hour-a-week employee, right? And we'll handle the payment facilitation for you as well. Now, the third option, which may be one that you're interested in, is a tech-only option. So if you wanted to board your team onto a better tool set, you could board them onto the Overpass platform. They'd get a dedicated number, unlimited calling, US and Canada, and full use of the platform. And that would be $120 a month to board your existing people. So in that scenario, let's say we've got 6 people that you wanted to board onto the platform. You're talking about $720 a month to get all of them the right tools to be able to do their job. And then if you were boarding additional 3 contractors on, you're looking at the exact same $720 to use Overpass talent. So you'd be looking at $1,440 a month with us, plus whatever you're paying the Overpass contractors that would bill through once a week. That is a 1-year commitment, because we're only concerned about building people that want a long-term strategy as far as developing their sales talent. We're not looking for people to dip their toe in the water, but the good news is you've already tried Upwork, and it looks like you've already felt that pain before. So it sounds like you're serious about scaling long-term.
Yeah, that we are, but if I'm going to consider bringing on, a new company that I've never worked with before.
Mhm.
Did you say it's a 1 year commitment?
It's a 1 year commitment.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I'd be interested in, trying it for 90 days and seeing how it works. But I mean, you're asking me up front to commit to a year for three people. That's a heck of a commitment without knowing what kind of results I'm going to get and what you guys really do.
Yeah, we absolutely are going to ask you that first of all, but the second of all, let me explain not only the why that I just mentioned, but underlying factors that are really going to make you happy behind that. Let's say that you hire somebody and they don't work out long term. We have the ability to replace that seat in less than a couple of days. So in other words, you're not stuck with one contractor for that year, and you're not even required to have a seat filled. In fact, we have certain clients that are seasonal that choose not to fill a portion of their seats for a course of the year and then refill them later at a later date. So that being in mind, if we're looking at a total outlay of 1440 plus whatever you're paying the contractors, wouldn't that be a good value since you're looking at 1/3 of one payroll position in order to put on a brand new set of technology and have one 24/7 access to talent?
Yeah, now that you're explaining it that way, I guess it's workable.
Okay, okay. So let's do this. You don't really have a dollar commitment to us until you hire someone. So our next step would be setting up an interview block. When would be convenient for you to speak to some folks? And we're going to get a job posted as well so people can start applying for your job. But when would be the best time for us to set up that interview block? We're sitting at Wednesday. Would Monday or Tuesday work better for you?
Setting up the interview block. When you say an interview block, where do I find these people?
That's well, what we're going to do is the next step is, and we'll do it right in this call. You'll share your screen and you're going to go ahead and post a job. So once you post that job, you'll have access to our marketplace portal. In our marketplace portal, there's different buckets. So we have a computer algorithm that'll recommend profiles that we have on the platform that are close matches to what you're looking for. Our contractors can actually apply for the job on our job board once we get that job posted. And then usually what happens 80% of the time is I'm going to hand cull through the database, bring you the most likely candidates that directly fit your wants and needs as far as what you're looking for. And I'm going to hand pick those people for you. Now I'm going to give you white glove service this first round to make sure you understand how the platform works. I'll help you set up the interview block, and I'll even be there on the interview block with you to make sure that we're asking the right questions and everybody shows up in a timely manner. And let's say that you're looking at 3 positions, we're looking at about 3 hours of interviews. So it's going to take a little chunk of time, but we want to give everybody about 30 minutes in that interview block to make sure that you've got time to make a quality decision about who you want as your first hires. So again, would Monday or Tuesday work better for you to set that up?
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that idea. Tuesday would work.
Great. So would morning or afternoon work better? Remember, we're talking about 3 hours here. How does your calendar look?
Yeah, let's say 1 to 4 on Tuesday would be okay.
Okay, awesome. So I'll go ahead and send you the meeting invitation out for this, for your interview block. And then right now, if you want to share your screen, which you don't actually have to do this in this role play, Jan, if you want to share your screen, we can go ahead and go through getting that job posted so we have time for people to apply before that interview block. And then I'll get with you by Friday or Monday morning. Actually, Monday would be better. I'll get with you on Monday. We'll make some final decisions about who you want to interview on Monday morning, and I'll make sure everybody's ready to go by Tuesday afternoon for your interview block. Does that sound like a solid plan?
I think that's workable, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, let's cut right there. We're at good timing. We're at half past.
Well done.
So there's the typical overpass presentation. Jan gave me, actually what Jan gave me was more of a negative statement than a pure objection, which is fine. I handled it in a very similar way, but let's take this role play. I'm going to take it one step further and take about 5 more minutes, Jan. So let's rewind that tape. And this time I want you to give me, in fact, you can just spit it out right now. Give me a hard objection on cost.
Yeah, sure. So you laid out a cost of $240. That's in addition to what I got to pay the contractor. That sounds like an awful lot of money.
Correct. And like I mentioned, on a 40-hour work week, that boiled down to about $1.50 an hour. But let me ask you this, Jan. If you don't go with Overpass today, what would be your plan B? What's your plan B to scale up the sales team if you don't use us?
I just keep doing what I'm doing. And, between ZipRecruiter and LinkedIn, I get enough feedback. I have to do the interviews, but, I can continue doing what I'm doing. It's not the greatest so far, but, we're used to doing it.
Okay. How long does that process usually take from the day you post a job until you actually have people on hired and training? About what's your time band?
I would say 4 to 8 weeks on average, something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty long, right? It's amazing how many interviews you get, or how many resumes you get stuck in front of you when you post those jobs.
Yeah, for sure. It's a pain in the you-know-where.
Yeah. So if you're looking at hiring these people in your conventional format, what's that going to look like as far as payroll burden? You mentioned about 50,000 base. So average payroll burden is 20% in the U.S. Would you say you run about that, or maybe a little more?
Yeah, I would say that's about that. That would be pretty consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so that's about a 60,000 base.
Yeah.
Plus what you're paying them in commission, and 20% more on commission, obviously, because you'd have the same payroll burden on commission that you would on the base.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we're looking at a 4 to 8 week cycle, and we're looking at maybe at least a 60,000 a year base on your account executive positions. You personally are setting all those interviews up, it sounds like, right, as well?
Yeah, I have somebody that my assistant, who will reach out and set up after I've looked at the resumes, will set up interviews for me. So I have somebody who does that.
Awesome. So do you do all those interviews at the same time, or you just have to do them kind of one at a time as they come in?
As I can get to them, I got to sneak them in here and sneak them in there.
Yeah. So it's kind of breaks up your calendar quite a bit, doesn't it, as you're going through that interview process?
Yeah, it does. It's a burden but it's got to get done. I gotta find the people to get the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. So if that's your plan B right now, and we compare that against Overpass, what if I could tell you this? Because instead of that 50 to 60,000 a year base, that 60,000 a year base you're talking about for an account executive right now, I can get you that for about $32,000 a year at $20 an hour. Would that be something that interested you?
Well, $20 an hour, basically 2,000 hours, that's 40 grand plus 240 a month. Is that what you said? 240 a month for your thing?
There's $3,000 a year. 2880, let's just say $3,000.
40, 50. That's fairly close. I mean, with you, I'm going to pay, basically $3,000 for your seat, for your cost.
2880 a year.
2880, about $3,000, and 20 an hour times 2,000 hours, 40,000, so about 43,000, and right now it's about 60. Yeah, I guess that's a difference of 15, 20,000. That's not insignificant. That's not an insignificant, if I can get the word out, number.
Could you find a place to spend the $60,000 difference on 4 AEs if somebody laid it on your kitchen table?
Yeah, my partners would be happy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, most people would. Okay, so one, we've got a money savings, and then two, we have the time savings that we'd agreed to. So can you see how using Overpass really at the end of the day is going to help you not only save time, but save money at the same time, keep you available to talent, and all of that at a very nominal fee versus what you're actually paying now to keep your current team set up?
Yeah, I like that idea. One of the things that you mentioned earlier was replacing people. I mean, the nature of the beast in sales is we know there's a certain amount of turnover going in.
Yes, there is.
And if somebody quits or I let them go or whatever, I do have to start that process again. Would you explain that to me? I want to be sure I understood it. It sounded interesting.
Yeah. So let's say that somebody didn't work out, or even let's say you wanted to start replacing your existing account execs because you had such a discount here versus using those folks. What we would do, you'd reach out to me, your account executive. I'd send you some new profiles of people that were ready to go to work right then. You would choose in those profiles who you wanted to interview, and literally in a couple of business days, you'd be interviewing and making hiring decisions. Remember, everybody's already pre-vetted for previous sales work, so it's really not a matter of whether they have the sales experience, it's a matter of whether they're the right fit for you. So a 48-hour boarding time seems a lot more appealing than 4 to 8 weeks. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely would agree. I like that feature. That is a valuable feature to me.
Great. So let's go ahead and set up those interviews for Tuesday afternoon between 1 and 4, and I'll go ahead and have you share your screen and let's get that job posted.
Okay, let's do it.
Awesome. And break.
Amazing. Thank you both. Per usual, everyone, we would love to hear your feedback, your questions, your comments. So chat us, write us in the Q&A, or raise your hand and I can give you the permission to speak if you would like. One comment we got, Dennis and Jan, from Chantel, she says, I love how you lead the sale with open questions and then summarize towards the end. Awesome. So Dennis, is that something you really have to think about as you're going through, or have you done it so many times that it's kind of just comes natural now?
Chantel, I actually make a client ask me what my value proposition is. I refuse to give it to them until they ask for it. So in other words, the only thing they'll get from me on a discovery call is questions until they demand a value prop. And many times I'll give them that little piece of the value proposition and go right back into my questions. If you look at our previous episodes on qualifying and value proposition, you'll see we talked about exactly that. And Jan's been in many demos with me. And Jan, could you verify that? Literally, a client has to ask me what our value proposition is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the early things that I learned from Dennis. I consider myself a pretty seasoned salesperson, and I picked up on that pretty quickly.
And if you look at our segment on value proposition, you'll also see that I tell you to break that up into little bitty pieces so it can be delivered in segments, not in one huge presentation, because the average human attention span is 1.5 minutes. That does not give us a large bandwidth to keep them engaged before we go to the next question with the client. So it always needs to be that feedback of two-way communication. Question, 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 answer, question, question, answer, question, question. Okay, now I've only got this much value proposition left. Let me get that in. Trial, close, and close.
Awesome. We have a question. Ever asks, we know Ever very well, where do you start to bring up the value of the product or service during the call?
Not until I understand their business. So if you noticed in that presentation, the first thing I asked Jan was, what do you do? How long have you been doing it? How many people in your organization? What does your current sales structure look like? Right? What type of results are you getting? You saw me ask all those questions. This is a very typical conversation I have every single day. So literally until I understand their company, because Ever, here's the point. Jan had a very unique business proposition where he could have gone with any of the 3 pricing packages that I have. In other words, he may have gone tech and talent only, or he also was interested in boarding his own people. Now, in a normal presentation, this would have gone a little farther because I would have shared my screen and gone through the Overpass platform, just so you know, to do the value proposition on what he would get out of the technology. So in this case, I delivered all 3 based on the questions. Where in many cases, they're going to go, hey, I'm already using HubSpot. I've already got a dialer. I don't need any of that. I'm just talking about, and I've already got the rest of my people. I just need to add. I need to scale. I'm only going to present them the 160 a month option. So in other words, why would I present them an option that they have not asked for? It's superfluous at that point. It's like, let me get to your business need. Here's your pain point. You need fast. You need cost effective, right? And you need now. Let's go. I got that. And I would have just told them about the 160 talent only, payroll facilitation. We're going to set up an interview block. Let's get you some folks.
Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. We have another question from Nikki Flores. He asks, Dennis, is it safe to say that a survey type of script is not effective in sales? In my current project, our script is a survey, but all it really is we're just selling solar. Can you speak to that?
Yes and no. It depends on the actual script. Now,
okay.
I would say that if you're poising that conversation as a survey and it's really a sales script, that's super bad form because you're misrepresenting what you're doing with a customer right out of the chute, right? So I have a tendency to not like those approaches. I have, like, especially in solar, it's like, why wouldn't you just ask very simple questions, right? In other words, go, hey, I've just got a few questions to ask you. I don't want to take a bunch of your time. If this is something that intrigues you, I could go ahead and we could go ahead and go to the next level, and you could talk with somebody that's a lot smarter than me. If it's not, that's okay too. But let's see if you qualify first, right? I'd pose that up. Let's see if you qualify. Not, I'm doing a survey. Let's see if you even qualify. Because especially in solar, they may not. They may have a crap roof, right? Or they may be on a contract for deed and don't have true home ownership, so they can't finance the package because they don't have the cash. They could have terrible credit in solar, and so they don't qualify for the financing. And so I would not present that as a survey, Nikki. Now, I'm not going to tell your client how to do it if they've had previous success, obviously, but I would do that I would go after that of, let's see if you qualify. I would definitely not do that as I'm doing a survey. Does that answer your question, Nikki?
Yeah, he says I'm actually killing it, tooting his own horn, but gave me a thought in a way, like if he could sell more by going with an actual sales script versus a survey, but he says he's doing well currently. So
Cool.
probably just food for thought for him. So thank you, Nikki, for the question. Any other questions or people who would want to speak? A little more time to write. Cool. Dennis, actually the question for you and Jan. Oh, nope, Q&A. Oh, someone says, I love qualifying. That way less time is wasted. And Dennis can describe this more. If you saw the qualifying video we did, that is such an important step in the process, because why would you waste time on someone who isn't even going to be right for your product or service? So excellent point.
And I will say this, 1 out of 3 clients that I talk to, I tell them we're not the right solution, and I refer them to another plan. And usually that's because of a budgetary concern. I don't think they have the budget. Or 2, they're not committed to our solution. So and I can't convince them otherwise. And if that's the case, I want them to go fail. Go use Upwork, go use a third-party call center, see how that works out for you. I'll call you in 90 days. Because I can't convince them of what they don't know and haven't tried. Please go try that, because I'm confident you're going to fail, and I'll be back with you in 3 months, right? And I don't say I'm confident you're going to fail. I don't just crush them, but I'm like, I will follow up in 90 days because I know that 75% of the time people come back to us to try that.
Actually, a question for both of you and Jan, Dennis. As we're kind of thinking about a different strategy and going after different clients, are you finding that one plan is much more popular than others out of that kind of 3-pronged plan you discussed? And why do you think that is?
Jan, why don't you answer that from your perspective, and I'll answer it from the entire sales team perspective.
Yeah, I can say that from an historic perspective in Overpass as a company, that I think that 75%, if I'm not mistaken, are talent only. In my particular case, I guess it's just the way that I present. Mine is kind of the inverse of that. The vast majority of my clients are talent and tech, because I push the CRM system because I think it's one of the great tools that we've got. So my results are a bit different than the vast majority of the other reps, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't make any more money on it one way or the other.
Right. And then I'm going to explain that at a different level from my level. So understand that we have 2 teams. We have an SMB team, small and medium business team. Jan's on that team. Jan's going to have a lot more talent and tech opportunities than the other team, who's our corporate team that works with larger accounts. They're almost exclusively talent only clients.
That's
why that combined mix comes out to about, Jan's pretty close, about 2/3, 1/3, about figure rough math, 2/3 of our clients are talent only 1/3 are on platform. The larger the company, the more they're already going to have their own tool set, and they don't need our tools. So that's literally a byproduct of company size more than anything else.
Great. That makes a ton of sense. One of our favorites, J. Michael Martinez, asks, okay, so I think we already answered one of the questions, but he says, those are all of the pricing programs that Overpass offers, just those 3, right?
Right.
And that's what we see. And yeah, I think J. Michael, we said that, yeah, the most we sell is the talent only as of right now. And existing clients do use our technology platform, do use the CRM, and they find it very helpful, especially on the SMB side.
And I will say by the end of 2022, I actually expect that percentage to be closer than 80-20. that we only have 20% using the tools and 80%. And it's specifically about the client set that we're going after as far as lead generation. It's larger companies, but here's the reason why. They keep you hired longer. Many times they pay better. They keep you hired longer and they stay on our books longer and they scale more. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why that larger person, in other words, we also have a new customer service rep initiative, which if even in Jan's team, his average client base is going to get much larger than it was. So he may have been talking to a company that had 12 to 20 employees. Well, now that's a starting at point. So now he's talking to people that have from 20 up to 100 employees. So we're transitioning all the way through the year to a larger client. They hire more of you, they pay you better, and they keep you on longer.
That's all they want to hear, I'm sure. All good things. So question, I guess, on the contractor side of things, obviously these webinars are super helpful and kind of going through them will help them practice these skills. But what other ways can they practice or improve on their skills if they're just starting as an appointment setter, maybe really new to sales and kind of want to get to this level? What would you suggest, Dennis and Jan, besides, of course, attending these webinars and watching the previous videos?
I'd say three things: role play, and role play. And find another member of your team and ask them off hours, hey, can you just spend 30 minutes with me and role play with me, right? And have them do exactly what Jan and I just did. To give you an idea, even like literally, Jan and I are like, we have been in sales a hot second. We're talking decades. Between the two of us, we probably have, oh my God, 60 years sales experience, 60, right? 60 years sales experience, and these two dudes sitting in front of you. So we still role play, just so you know. We still role play. Every product's unique, objection's unique, customers are unique. So there's always different things. Another thing I do is I actively go in on many of the guys' discovery calls. Why? I need to know what the reactions are, number one. And number two, I may unpack an idea that helps them. It's an alternate version of role play where they're listening to me and going, oh man, I never thought about that one. Where I'm sitting here with 30 years of knowledge base, so I'll just pull something out of my hip pocket in the middle of a discovery call that may not be on script, but is extremely effective. And then even when we have new AEs, if they're younger, I always try to team them up with somebody that has more sales experience to get on the demo calls, et cetera. And it's just keep practicing and find somebody to practice with. Literally, like years ago when I was in the Army, I used to go to soldier boards. And I would actually have my wife give me flashcards, and she would be asking me about the cyclic rate of fire of an M102 howitzer. 10 rounds a minute sustained for up to 3 minutes before you burn the tube down, right? Literally, she would drill me for hours and hours and hours and hours. So I ended up becoming the non-commissioned officer of the year for the entire 82nd Airborne Division. But that took me probably 1,000 hours of background work to be able to get that. It's the same thing in sales, guys. It doesn't change. If you're going to be a master of the art form, you have to continuously be engaged. If all I did was manage the team and wasn't engaged with the clients, I would get stale so fast, so quick, your head would spin. And I'd come in to a presentation with a client and I'd botch it just because I don't stay in practice. You can't see a professional athlete in the world that doesn't spend 3 times more practicing than they do actually engaging in competition.
Yeah, and using that same analogy, particularly today in the digital world, athletes practicing, you see them on the sideline, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, looking at the last play, watching the video. If I can give one bit of advice to every one of you that's here, I agree with Dennis. There's 3 main things that you need to do in order: role play, and role play. But most especially, the biggest value you can get is record those and listen to yourself. Because the first thing you're going to be is really upset. God, did I really sound that stupid? And every one of us who has become a seasoned salesperson has had that fright of listening to ourselves and saying, oh my gosh, is that really the way that I'm coming across? Can't encourage you enough to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point too. And I even ask at the end of every presentation, even when I'm doing it, I have an after action review. What we do well, what we do bad, what can we improve on? Would that be a correct statement, Mia? Because we do it on these too.
Yep, every week.
Every week.
Every week. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's super duper helpful. Next question is from J. Michael Martinez. He asks, does Overpass utilize any sort of salary savings proposition to trial close, like the program pays for itself sales pitch?
Only if we've already identified, like in this particular role play with Jan, it was obvious that I can get him talent less expensively than he's currently paying his account executives. Now, if I hadn't figured that out in discovery, I can't use that trial close. But since I did unpack it in discovery, I went ahead and used it as part of the need satisfaction in that exact example of going, hey, if you're paying 60,000 a year now, and he's like, well, you know, that's 45. Yeah, okay, well, 4 AEs, that's 60,000 a year. Could you find a place to spend the money if somebody slapped it on your dining room table, right? I don't even think about that stuff anymore. It just rolls off the tongue. That's not part of our sales presentation. That's just an obvious mathematical difference between what he would pay us on average, right? And what he's currently paying. So that was a very easy example to use that. We don't go there unless we've already identified that with a client, Michael, and here's why. You could actually shoot yourself in the foot if you do that. What if we're more expensive than they're using? What if they're using a third-party call center and we're more expensive? Or what if they're using Upwork and we're more expensive? We could be more expensive, but are they going to get the right talent? And we find that you're going to get about exactly what you pay for, but we're still about 40% under the market when you include payroll burden on what we cost versus conventional hiring. And that's huge. You put a 10 person sales department together, that's mammoth difference in cash outlay a year.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Dennis. Walter asks, what happens to clients if they stop their commitment or business with Overpass? His previous client closed their business due to the leads that were dialed and contacted.
I did not understand that question. What was the point?
Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure. I think he's asking, I think what happens is they just leave. I don't think there's anything more we do if the business doesn't do well. Is that correct, Dennis? I don't think.
Right. I mean,
there's nothing on us.
They have a 1 year obligation to cease, not to have somebody hired, right? That stays in place. But if we have a company go out of business, there's nothing to do there. They just went out of business. Now, you as contractors should definitely be giving your clients feedback if they do have a crap lead list. We can recommend them other places to go for leads, right? I do a lot of one-on-one business coaching with our clients. So when they come to me, I'm like, you know, one of my first questions, they go, well, you know, my leads are terrible. Have you even done market segmentation? What exact sub-markets are you going after within your product niche? Well, we've never done that. Okay, stop, do that. Now, of those, quantify them. How many people do you have within that market space? Well, I've got 50,000 here, 60,000 there, and 20,000 there. Great. Now, list them. Literally go out and find the contact list of all 70,000 or however many there were of those, right? Now engage. So in other words, many of them haven't even done who's my best customer, my ideal customer profile, right? How many of them are there? Let me gather their information. And now how do I do my approach? Most of them do spray and pray. I'll just talk to anybody if they'll buy my product. Worst marketing plan ever. They need to be consciously identifying what's my market niche, how many people I have in that niche, who the heck are they? Now I can form, even if it's like a MailChimp campaign, to do one touch point a month for 12 months. But at least that way that client recognizes my name when I call them out to the phone, because I'm not going to get to 7,000 contacts in a hot second. With a 5-man team, I've got a year and a half of work there to reach all those clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Got a couple. Let me see. Oh, he said, makes sense. Thanks for explaining. Thanks, Walter. I'm reading Hannah's comment quickly. I just want to summarize it. Okay, so interesting. So there's a newer contractor on the platform who was asked earlier, I believe in an interview, how to sell an app to business owners. And I think in general, one, go through these webinars. We have them on the Facebook group. They'll be up on YouTube shortly. But I don't know if you guys have any other advice on like how to sell an app. I think it totally depends on the client. And I think she would just need to kind of do her research and kind of go over everything that's been discussed here. So Hannah, that would be my advice. These webinars, super helpful. I would just kind of go through them, get more information on whatever that app was, and practice, practice, practice. So it wasn't really a question. It was more of a general statement, it sounds like.
Have we done the segment on building effective sales scripts? Have we done that webinar yet? Mia, I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think so. I think a lot of it, it's the qualifying and all of that, but I can double check and we can discuss.
If not, I will be doing that segment on how to build effective sales scripts.
Perfect.
So because sometimes you'll walk into a client that literally doesn't have a good sales script, and you'll know from your experience, this script is terrible. I want to give you the tool set to where you can actually help them design a better one and give it back to them. Go, could we try this? Mm-hmm. Right? Because sometimes the client won't listen. They're like, oh, you've always done it this way. Well, great. That's the result you've always got too. But there's a way better way of doing this. Could we try it this way? So I will do that webinar on how to build effective sales scripts.
Awesome. And just to kind of, in our last few minutes, to drill down on Dennis's point about communicating with your client, please do that. It's something we really discuss throughout training, throughout the onboarding. If, like Dennis said, their leads are really, really bad, they're not working out, the sales script is not working, really communicate that with them. They may need some extra help, as Dennis and Jan were mentioning. But if you're finding that is the case, please communicate. That is probably our biggest thing that can make or break a successful client contractor relationship. So I just wanted to emphasize that point that Dennis made.
Yeah, and give them feedback on what you're doing, because if they don't get the feedback and they're like, well, this isn't working. Well, it could be the script, it could be the pricing, it could be that you're not handling the pricing objection. I don't know, because every campaign's different, but you need to identify that and help and have open communication with your client to adjust, or you're going to fail. If what you're doing is not working, you need to be talking to your client.
Yep. I think this will probably be the last question as we're running out of time. So the anonymous attendee is asking, everyone loves when you critique Dennis. So what about like a contract or role play and then you critique it? Could that be something that we could maybe do in the future, or something that you think could be helpful? Yeah, I think that's actually a really good idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We will, I made a note of that so we can maybe implement that in future webinars.
If we want to do a whole a la carte webinar, we could have a whole webinar where I could be client.
A role play webinar. Yeah.
A role play webinar where I can be the client or the prospect, and you can present to me.
Yeah.
I think that's
really helpful. It's a great idea. Yes, Jadonna, completely agree. That is all we have. If there are any last minute questions, now is your time, but otherwise, being cognizant of the hour, I want to quickly wrap up and say thank you again to Dennis and Jan for all of their expertise on this webinar. Again, you'll be sent an email. It will be uploaded to the Facebook page. And we do really encourage you, if you just joined and you haven't been able to attend past webinars, to do so. Dennis has had a very consistent cadence from goal setting, just as a salesperson, all the way now we're talking about objection handling. So it's a really great sequence to go through if you just got started. But otherwise, everyone, thanks again. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Dennis and Jan, thank you both.
Good luck, everybody.
Bye-bye.